After the Joker War, the Joker disappeared into the night. So who is going to find him and bring him back? Well, Batman's a bit busy. So is Jim Gordon free? This is the Comicstorian channel where I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Today we're going to be covering Joker issue 1 through 4, telling the story of Jim and Joker, and then we're going to tell you the story within Joker issue 5, which is more of a historical Joker storyline. If you guys enjoy this, please consider pressing that bell so that you'll know when the next episode of Joker comes out within the next couple of weeks, because it's an ongoing storyline. And join the Comicstorian army. We'd really love having you around here, but let's get into Joker issue number 1. A long time ago in Chicago, a young Jim Gordon sits in a bar for his going away party. Though it felt more like a good riddance one since he didn't have the greatest reputation on the force. He'd gotten 5 boys in blue demoted for taking bribes. So his reward was a promotion and a transfer to hell. Let Gotham deal with Jim, they said. Maybe those boys will set him straight. But that wasn't the strangest part of the whole ordeal. It actually came from another office. Danny Ryan. Danny was a heavy-set cop, always wheezing when he spoke, and he asked Jim if he'd ever seen his boogeyman yet. Jim brushed it off, telling him that he'd seen some rough things already, here and in the war. Except that wasn't what Danny was referring to. He went on to state that there comes a time in every cop's life where they come face to face with a horror that they can't get rid of. An evil that every time they close their eyes, they see it as vividly as the day that they came across it. For him, he saw the devil eating the face of a 17-year-old girl. When he saw him, he held up a piece of meat and he asked if he wanted to share. But after drawing his gun, the man threw a knife into his leg and escaped, laughing down the alleyway. Never caught him, though. Spent every damned night trying to find that psycho, and now every time he closes his eyes, he sees that man there, holding out a piece of meat. There's the law, and then there's evil, and when you see evil, you aim for the head. Jim took his leave after that, trying to process just what in the hell he was told. It took a few years for what Danny said to make sense, because these days he sees the damned devil every time he closes his eyes. Eventually, A Day came, or at least that's what people are calling it. Nearly 500 patients, healthcare workers, and security guards killed in the deadliest gas attack in the history of the United States. It was the death of Arkham Asylum. Reports state that the gas bomb went off at midnight, and most of the deaths happened in the first 5 minutes before any alarm went off. It was an altered version of the classic Joker toxin formula. Victims smiled, but they didn't laugh, so no one could hear it spreading from room to room. They say Batman beat the police to the scene and helped disperse the toxin from the air. But Mayor Nakano directed his men to arrest Batman in lieu of there being anyone else to arrest. Unsuccessfully, mind you. Jeremiah Arkham, Jonathan Crane, Bane, countless others all dead. Reports showed that there was footage of the Joker leaving the asylum during his attack on the city last fall. The running theory now is that the Joker planted these GAD bombs before he left Gotham, setting them to go off months later. He was supposed to be retired, not chasing after some madman once again. But lately, he looks out to see the evil men with his eyes open, and then the laughter when he closes them. Everywhere he looks, all he can see is the Joker's face. What he did to Barbara nearly broke Jim, but she lived and learned to thrive. It's knowing that he played a hand in tipping his son over the line one last time that James had a hard path. He struggled with a deep and powerful evil inside of him. He struggled so that he could stay a part of the Gordon family. But in the end, the Joker knew that he could use James, Jim Gordon's son, as a weapon against him. And so he did. Jim lost his boy, and when he closes his eyes, the devil is laughing at him. However, after seeing James's grave, Jim was approached by a woman and a rather large man. She said that she would like to speak with him regarding the Joker. Taking note of the large man, Jim opens the door stating, "Yeah, that sounds about right." Later, the woman would bring Jim to a fancy estate, telling him that her name was Cressida. She explains that her sources have recently given her photographs that the Joker was in Belize weeks after his attack on Gotham. Jim asked why would she be showing him all of this and not the police, and Cressida said that the people that she represents thinks that the Joker has reigned terror on Gotham far too long. Rather than wait for his next attack, they'd like to see him taken off the board. They thought that Jim would be the perfect man to hunt him down. He has the most experience with hunting the Joker more than anyone else. He's been tortured in body and soul by this man. The Joker has nearly killed one of his children and instigated the death of another. They can't imagine how much Jim must hate the Joker. Should he accept this, he would be given a bank card with no spending limit for the duration of this mission. Upon completion, they'll deposit $25 million into his personal bank account. Jim asks, "You want to pay me that much money just to capture the man and bring him home?" Cressida says that he misunderstands. If they wanted to put a bounty on the Joker, they'd just coordinate with the authorities. They want him to kill the Joker. Jim asks why would they think that he would agree to this, and Cressida answers him by asking a question. "Do you believe in evil, Jim?" To which he answers yes. Yes, he does. Cressida then says that she understands that this request may be a lot to process, so he has until the end of the week to decide whether to go or not. Just know that he is out there and know that he is planning something. A day wasn't the end of the Joker story, it was only the beginning. In Belize, at that exact moment, Joker reads the Gotham Gazette headline, "Joker's Last Laugh. Arkham Asylum destroyed," and he bursts out laughing. "Oh, this is about to get very interesting, isn't it?" Jim Gordon was presented with a deal. Kill the Joker. Have unlimited funds, get a massive paycheck at the ending, but kill the Joker. With all the cards on the table, Jim begins to think back to when things were different. He can remember sitting at the dining room table after their move in the small Gotham apartment trying to chart it all out. How much would it be to send a young Barbara to college? How much would it be for the second child that they knew was on the way? Maybe he could stay in the job enough to rack up a title like captain or something respectable. He would try and keep calm through it all, make sure his voice stayed reassuring, tell his wife that he could support her, their daughter and son through the thick and the thin. But sometimes at the kitchen table, he had been weak. He had been thinking about the card that he had up his sleeve if it became necessary. His new partner at the time, Flass, made it clear that he knew of a way to earn a little extra money, and all it took was bending the law. Normally, he would never consider it, but in that moment, he had been staring at a lifetime of bills and debt. Was it really wrong to bend his ethics just a little? Even if it meant supporting his family? If he had been picked up for a few jobs like that, he'd have been able to afford a nice place outside of the city in time for Babs to go to school. But as he sat outside on the fire escape, feeling the cool night air, he knew he couldn't do it. He wasn't that man, not for all the money in the world. And now, as Jim sits on the fire escape once again, he looks at Batman, telling him that it took him long enough. Batman looks at the makeshift bat signal, telling him, "It's not your most effective signal." Jim tells him, well, he's been here for an hour, freezing off his rump. Come inside, they need to talk about the Joker. So Jim laid it all out. Told him about the woman in the limousine, her strange silent chauffeur, the pictures of the Joker in Belize, the money, all of it. But what he doesn't tell Batman is that they want him to kill the Joker, or that he's considering going through with it. Sure, Batman could probably talk him out of it, but when he tries to think of his son's voice, all he can do is hear the Joker laughing. Jim tells himself that he doesn't need to make a decision until he needs to, and he can keep that card up his sleeve, and Batman tells him that if they want to do this, he'd go himself. But the massacre in Arkham Asylum ripped up all the wounds of the Joker War. They've all been torn open. The city is more raw and dangerous than it's been in years, Jim. I'd pursue the Joker myself, but leaving Gotham, it's not an option. And knowing someone I trust is on the mission will help me sleep at night. But you didn't bring me here for my approval. Jim pours himself a cup of coffee. No, I brought you here because I could use some help. First off, I don't like not knowing who is hiring me. I'm going to need to find out more about anyone with the daughter named Cressida. Second, there's plenty of information that I could get from a few phone calls, but those phone calls will bring a lot of attention. Now, I'd rather not have that attention, so I'll need my own intelligence. Batman asks if he wants access to the Bat computer, and Jim says that they can put the parental controls on if they want, but yes. I need access to all of Joker's contacts, former gang members at large, international villains that he's ever aligned himself with, everything from the day that Joker set foot in Gotham. Batman scratches his chin. We might be able to work something out, but we'll need to figure out the best way. Jim stops him. I'm not done. I need to be able to reach you. Batman stops. You want my phone number? And Jim tells him, damn right. Batman says that he can give him everything, but there is something needed in exchange. When they do find the Joker, call. Don't go in alone. He will come and make sure that the Joker's apprehended safely and brought back to Gotham. Jim says that makes sense to him, and Batman says that there is more. He'll have a chaperone. Oracle, are you listening? Oracle says yes. She'd just like to put it on record that this is a stupid idea and Commissioner Gordon is going to get himself killed. She would also like to point out that he didn't promise that they could bring the Joker back. He said it made sense. Batman turns back to Jim, and Jim can already feel the weight of their eyes. He also realizes that now it's time to come clean, that he has been hired to kill the Joker, or come clean with a card that he's kept up his sleeve for years. He sips his coffee. Are you sure you're not just worrying about your old man, Barbara? Everyone falls silent. Jim Gordon just confirmed that he knows that Batgirl/Oracle is Barbara Gordon. And Jim gives a little smile. He can hear the gears turning in Batman's mind, trying to guess how long he's known. In another minute, they'll be asking what else he knows. It's good. They're distracted. But there's no distracting Barbara. She tells Jim to meet her at the clock tower now and disconnects. But while Jim leaves to meet with his daughter, he thinks back to another encounter that he had back in the day. One night after going through the public functions, he met someone. An ex-CIA agent working in an advisor role to some senator who had been dragged along to some cultural event. After a couple of whiskeys, he'd lean in and asked if they'd ever wondered where all of the costumed baddies went when they slipped off the radar. Jim said of course he'd like to know, and the ex-CIA agent told him it's called the Network, a series of luxury getaway spots hidden around the world. It's not just the public set, the private players as well. The killers who spent the last century out of sight of anyone in costume. They retreated, priding themselves on their secrecy, and to prove their worth, they would occasionally host some of the most renowned villains in the world free of charge. The idea was that you could host the Joker for a few months while he's laying low. Then you can sell your client that not even Batman could find you there. The ex-CIA guy says that there was a rumor in the intelligence community that the Joker had been in about 15 of these retreats all around the world. He then leaned in closer, asking, "Do you know who's funding it all? Look all around. The call is coming from inside of the house." As a businessman with a burned face and armed security stands by the pool, Joker sips his drink. "Oh, pooh, Desmond. You're not here to spoil my fun, are you?" Desmond says that he's afraid so. While they permit killing on their property, killing one of the wealthiest neighbors is not allowed. These are not people who can easily disappear. He is terribly sorry, but they're going to have to ask him to leave the country immediately. And Joker thinks for a moment. No, I don't think so." The security points their guns and Desmond says, "Ask" was a polite word. There are two options here. You get in the car and you're taken to a plane and you leave, or you will be killed and fed to the dogs. Joker goes out into the pool, laughing. "I love your imagination. Very scary. But I'm going to go with the third option. You seen the news, yes? If so, then you would know that there are some people on their way." Desmond asks who, and Joker says, "Oh, we're gonna keep that a secret for now. Can't spoil the big reveal, but needless to say, the attack on Arkham had rubbed a few people the wrong way. We both don't want a war coming here, so I just happened to move the target 13 miles southwest, created a trail for my enemies to follow. We have the high ground here, so when anyone comes down the road, we'll kill them. Oh, and if you don't mind, send a maid to clean up. The corpses are starting to stink a bit. And send a tailor. Make sure that they have plenty of purple and green fabric. I'm very particular." Back in Gotham, Jim knocks on the door to the clock tower, and as Barbara opens it, he says that he brought her some hot chocolate from the diner on Avenue X. Barbara steps out, stating that they haven't been there since she was a teenager, and she's taking it. How much does he know? Jim says that they don't have to unpack all of that just yet. He knows his daughter. Doesn't matter what costume she's wearing or how digitally altered her voice is. Jim says that he knows that she was Batgirl, or was, and now she is the Oracle. As they sit on the bench, Barbara directly says that he said that he would hold Batgirl accountable for what happened to James. Jim sighs, stating that that wasn't fair of him to say. He was angry at himself for more than anything. Angry that he hadn't done more, and that he wasn't more open to his son getting better. He was lashing out because if he hadn't pushed James away, the Joker would have been able to play him. Barbara says that he isn't responsible for what happened to James, but Jim looks at his glasses and says that she can say that, but he can hear the Joker laughing at him every night, even now. That clown has taken so much from them, so damn much! Barbara asks why would he give the Joker an opportunity to take more than with what little they have left as a family. He doesn't even know who's hiring, and for God's sake, is it really about the money? She can help him. Hell, he could write a book about his relationship with Batman and he'd be set for life. Jim says that woman, Cressida, she didn't ask him to turn in the Joker. She asked him to kill the Joker. Barbara pauses. You didn't tell Batman that. And Jim tells her, no, and I'd prefer you not either. Barbara stops. You're considering it. And Jim tells her that he is not considering it. She says that years ago, the Joker shot and paralyzed her and then tried to torture him into insanity. And even after all of that, he told Batman to bring him in by the book. Jim stops her. Look, I don't relish the thought. I don't have that kind of cruelty in me, but I can't imagine losing you. You're still a target, and he'll have you in his sights as long as he is walking this earth. I'd be damned to hell 1,000 times to make sure that the Joker never got to you. Barbara tells him that she won't help him kill the Joker, and Jim says he'll make her a deal. He will only go through with it if he can convince her that it's the right thing. If not, he'll do it Batman's way. But while Jim is making his case to his daughter, there are other players making their move. In Texas, a group of cannibals gather while a vengeful brother swears that they'll cook and eat the Joker for killing their brother in the Arkham attack. And Santa Prisca, a woman that has been injected with venom, has taken out her test tube with only one enemy in mind, the Joker. And Cressida tells the council that she believes that Mr. Gordon will be on a flight tomorrow morning, and the council tells her that she has done good work. Her family name may finally be cleared off of their ledgers. In the meantime, she may retake her family's seat on the council as they look to solve the city's clown problem once and for all. Cressida reaches town, picking up a mask, putting it on, stating that it's time to finally teach the Joker to beware of the Court of the Owls. Jim can remember it like it was yesterday, that night at the amusement mile. He felt the collar digging into his neck, the cold night air on his naked body, the smell of sweat coming off the circus sideshow act, drugged up into a frenzy, dragging him towards his throne. He remembers the panic rising as he grappled with what was happening around him, and he asked, delirious, what he was doing there, and the voice of the devil responded. Doing? The Joker asked. You're doing what any sane man in your appalling circumstances would do. You're going mad. For a few moments, Jim believed him. It was hard not to. That's the trick to the Joker. It always feels as if he knows what you're thinking and that he can say the words before they come to your mind. And when you start to break, that's when the laughter takes hold of him. The sound of it destroying the very self-satisfaction and cruelty of it all. After going over these memories, the next morning came and Jim headed to the airport where he met with Cressida. She tells him that she is glad that he could make it. Jim says that he wishes that he could say the same to her. This is all a bit unnerving, if he's being entirely honest. Cressida smiles and says that she has the utmost confidence in him and his abilities. They have gathered intel on the ground in Belize, and there are a number of off-the-book resorts in that region, and they suggest he should begin there. Her man will fly him to the landing strip where the Joker landed, and from there he'll fly commercially. Also, here's your bank card with an unlimited amount of money as promised. You can withdraw any of it, charge anything. Jim takes the black credit card and asks, what if I took out $25 million and treated myself to a nice vacation? Cressida smiles. I don't know. What would you do? But you're a good man. We trust that you'll do the job that you're being hired to do. Though, you can treat yourself a little. So get comfortable. Get new clothes. Whatever makes you comfortable, Mr. Gordon. The flight will be about 5 hours and then the hunt can begin. A bon voyage and happy hunting. As Jim gets onto the plane, he begins to prepare himself more mentally than anything. Barbara gets to work on finding out more information on Cressida with the help of Orphan trailing close behind. However, it isn't only Jim who is on the hunt for the Joker. Other organizations are making their way to Belize around the same time, some a bit noisier in their approach, while others quietly sail the seas. As Jim lands, he tries to put all of the pieces that he has in place, thinking of what it is exactly that he's dealing with. Joker is in one of these resorts. He has an audience that has invited him in. It's just a matter of finding out who those missing people are. So Jim does what he did on the streets, talk to anyone and everyone. It doesn't take too long to find out that there are several places here that people just, well, don't talk about. After giving them a few drinks, they became a little more comfortable with Jim. There were rumors about one place in particular up in the mountains near the Guatemalan border, a private resort that they don't dare name. So much of the job is just people. Most of the time, if you know what you're doing, you can get all the information you need without anyone realizing what you're after. Like, for instance, you might hear about a missing businessman with a house up in the mountains near where this resort nobody will talk about is supposedly at, and how the local authorities just keep quiet when they're asked about it. There's a million possible answers as to why this might be the case, but sometimes you just have to follow those gut feelings and see where they take you. So Jim will follow a few more dead ends, and then he'll find a place where the Joker was a month ago and start piecing together where they're going next. And as Jim pulls up to one of the resorts, he knocks on the door with a voice asking, "Quinas?" Jim says that he's sorry, but his Spanish isn't strong. He was hoping to ask a few questions. He's looking for an old friend of his. Just then the door flies open, and the man he's hunting for, the man he doesn't want to see, answers, "Jimbo! Is that really you?" Jim freezes, and once he gets his bearings, he grabs his gun and he points it at the Joker, just as several armed men point their guns at him. Joker tells everyone, "Put your guns away! This is an old pal of mine from Gotham City! Oh, the fun we used to have!" As the smile begins to stretch across the Joker's face, he leans his forehead into the barrel of Jim's gun. "This is one of those crap or get off the pot moments, Jim." After a few moments of contemplating, Jim pulls back, holding his hands up, and the Joker laughs. "See? We're all friends here. Oh, Jimmy boy, you showed up just in time. This sort of thing is all too grisly without an audience you know and love." Jim asks, "What the hell are you talking about?" And Joker throws his arm around him. "See, I'm not too sure if you're aware of this, but a few weeks ago, somebody gassed Arkham Asylum and blew half the place up." Jim says that they all know that the Joker did it, and Joker's face quickly turns to one of disgust. "That's the darndest thing, Jim! Jimmy boy, I didn't do it! Someone just wanted you to think I did, and now everyone is coming here to try and kill me! But they're just in time for the fun! These people took out their men in the trees and are coming up the hill now. Keep that gun drawn, Jimbo! You're gonna need it, 'cause I need you to protect me!" In your adult life, you don't really stop to think about why you do the things that you do. You lie to yourself and you say that you're going out of principle, not out of habit. You tell yourself that you'd keep doing it just the same if you pause long enough to consider. You get very good at lying to yourself the older that you get. And Jim has always been a better liar than he wanted to be. It's easy to put himself in the shoes of a hypothetical good man, the man that he wished to be, and to say the things that the man would say. But it was easy because he thought that he was that good man, trying to do some good in a bad world. It was okay for him to lie to his wife, to pretend that he would be there for her, because he knew that he was saving lives, that he could bring his righteous zeal to the justice system. But that all changed the night that the Joker shot his daughter and tried to drive him insane. He'd look at himself in the mirror and he did not see a good man looking back anymore. He just saw a tired, broken, old fool who had pushed everyone who loved him away in a pursuit of something intangible, unachievable, something mad. But all of that goes away as a large woman wearing a Bane mask storms out of the Joker's hideout, and Jim watches as she jumps down to take the Joker down. But in that brief moment, Jim had to make a decision. Would the mercenaries care? Would Barbara ever find out that it was him who did it? He could claim the $25 million bounty on the Joker's head and be rid of that devil from the world. Just maybe, he would stop hearing the Joker's laughter when he closed his eyes. All he needed to do was pull the trigger, but he can't. It all feels wrong. He doesn't know the woman in the mask. He doesn't know who these armed guards are. He is seeing a whole world of evil that has never been more visible to him. And he knows that he can't just fall into it. He can't just join this group and kill the Joker. He should call Barbara. That way he can get to the bottom of all of this. But as Jim quickly begins to get up from his cover, one of the guards stops him, telling him that Mr. Desmond would like a word with him. Joker yells, "Hey, look at that she-bane! It's not a party without a party bus!" Two sophisticated people step out, and the man tells Vicky that it looks like they're just in time. Vicky takes out her knives, stating, "Good thing that we put the pedal to the metal, buddy." Buddy stabs one of the guards on his way out, telling her, "You're right. Look at all these fresh throats to slit." But as they get closer, Vicky says that the clown belongs to the Samson family. He's coming back to Texas to meet Pa. Buddy licks the blood from his knife. "Oh boy, is Pa plenty hungry for some fresh clown meat." The woman in the Bane mask tells him that the clown is coming back with her for the death of Bane. He is coming to Santa Prisca for an execution. But Joker struggles. All right. Well, I have a very important question. What's black and white and red all over? It's the nerve gas canisters that I spent the last few days planting around the grounds. I painted them that way, for the joke. As he presses a small button, the gas is released, engulfing everyone in a colorful haze, knocking them all out. Jim could hear the shoes hitting the floor as the Joker walked up to him. And as he looked up at the three faces of evil, Joker tells him, "Shh, go on, Jimmy boy. It's time for the sleep." Later that night, Joker takes out a pair of pliers and begins to sew Buddy's mouth shut with wires that he had sitting in a fire. When he looks over and smiles at Jim awake. "We really need to talk. But don't worry, it's only the two of us." Joker starts wrapping the hot wire around Buddy's head. "Well, there's him too, but it looks like he can't hear a thing. He's not even struggling anymore, Jimmy boy. Poor Buddy Sampson. He really thought that he was something scary, like his Uncle Billy. Now there was a man who knew how to put fear of God into you. Shall look him up sometime." Joker then grips the wire and pulls it, digging into Buddy's skin. "Don't worry. I'm just helping him. Gotta throw a bone to the younger generation, Can't always rely on their good looks." Joker holds the pliers to the fire, asking Jim, "Why is it that you believe that despite all the things that I've done and all the people that I've murdered, that I will accept help from the shadows? Batman would have gone crazy if not for me. I ground Batman. Batman is a hypocrite, but he doesn't know it. He believes it. But Jim Gordon, you're a hypocrite. And you know it. You don't look at the world like Batsy. You don't look at it like a dumb kid. You're a grown man and you see that the world is broken. You saw Batman as a way to get at the people that you couldn't get otherwise, because the world is broken. But that doesn't change anything. Not really. So, is there any part of you that believes that Batman would finish this job?" Joker rips the tape off of Jim's mouth, shouting at him, "Answer! Give me an answer, Jim!" Jim coughs. "It's not a war that can be won." Joker leans in. "Come on! Deep down there's a little spark, right? There's a part of you that thinks that there is such a thing as good and evil. But you also know that fighting evil doesn't make you good. But you can't stop trying to be good, you just fight evil. Why?" Jim stares for a moment. "I don't know how to be good, but I do know how to fight evil." Joker laughs. "That's why I knew I could count on you. Now, on to the next order of business. Since you're now a private detective, there's a case that needs to be solved. Who pulled the attack on Arkham Asylum? Why does everyone think it's me?" Jim tells him, "You did it." And Joker bursts out again. "Really? When have I ever pulled a job like that and not left a message? Anything that would have given me credit? Why would I use gas more likely to kill people in their sleep than hear the laughter growing from cell to cell? Don't you think that I have 100 more interesting ways to kill Arkham Asylum? There were plans for Bane, Gotham, Batman. Everyone was going to hate them. These were all things being cooked up before my war. But some people got wind of it and it scared the crap out of them, Jimmy boy. Scared them enough that they were willing to kill almost 500 people just to send the right people my way to kill me. Those people are being used. Like you. See, there are these rules in the world. Not laws, but rules. People who care about the rules don't care about the laws. The superheroes, they fit into the rules. And so do most people like me, who put on silly costumes and try to kill the superheroes. We're allowed to keep playing our games as long as we don't break the rules. But me, I don't like the rules very much. Never really been a color inside the lines kind of kid. Jim asks, "Why try to convince me that you didn't do something that everyone knows you did?" Joker tells him, "Because this is worse. I'm gonna show you how little everything that you have ever done in your life matters, and how little your notions of good and evil factor into this. And it's going to break you. So much more than stripping you naked in a broken amusement park. Anyways, there's so much more that needs to be done first before going back to Gotham. Maybe it's time to stop by somewhere in Europe. Glad to have this little chat and clear the air. Say hello to Barbara for me." As Joker leaves Jim to himself in the middle of the woods, Jim tries to break free of his restraints, but he falls over. Then the restraints are ripped apart and the woman with the Bane mask stares at him. Jim tells her that he's gone, and as she looks around, she looks back at him, telling him, "James Gordon of Gotham." Jim says yes. The woman says, "You need to go home. You're already drowning in darkness. Head back to the light while you still can." As Jim gets up, putting on his glasses, the woman turns and leaves without saying another word. And that right there was Joker 1 through 4. And I know it's a heck of a cliffhanger, but this is a long, ongoing story. And we're about to take a break from it to go to an older story, to tell one of the first times that Jim met up with the Joker and when he learned that the Joker is more than he seems. So we'll be back to the main story eventually, but let's go to Joker issue 5 and learn what Jim learned that day. Long ago, an old partner of Jim's back in Chicago told him that there would be two kinds of people. Those who end up in the right place at the right time, and those who end up in the wrong place at the wrong time. He never put much thought to it back then until he transferred to Gotham, but now he's a believer. He's worried that Gotham is just a city full of wrong places. And back when he was just a captain, he could have waited for backup, or he could have done something. A team already went in and didn't return, so should he have waited for backup? Sure, but he didn't. He had good men inside, and God knows what could have happened to them. His quick thinking led him to stopping a thug from killing a pair of blues, but that wasn't what was on his mind. The Joker was still swimming through his head, and when Dent told him that the judge agreed to Joker's insanity defense and to not going to trial, well, that didn't sit well. The Joker was going to be sent to Arkham, the loony bin. The Joker was just going to walk out the front door. So the next day, Jim and his wife Barbara went to their marriage counselor. But Jim was too distracted. How could they let the Joker go like that? He has to see for himself what this place is like. So he left Barbara at that meeting so that he could find out what kind of place Arkham was. One of the nurses there, Frank, explains that they have an all-secure and state-of-the-art facility. However, in this one particular wing, there is only one resident, Billy Sampson. He killed and ate. The facility's director, Jeremiah Arkham, stopped Frank, stating that there is no need to go into detail with their guest. And Jim says that he is quite set up here. And Jeremiah says, "Isn't it just lovely? The building has been at his family for generations, and it sits on 22 acres and..." But Jim interrupts him, telling him, "I was less concerned with the grass and more concerned with your security. There's a man in here calling himself the Joker. He should be the one in this wing, not some drugged up Billy Sampson." Jeremiah tells him that he would consider that when this facility was constructed, they were heavily funded by a generous donation by Billy's brother Sawyer Sampson. And that was all on the condition that Billy's home be here until such time that he is cured or deceased. They can't move him without his brother's consent. Jim says that is fine. He'll ask Sawyer himself. And so that day, Jim did. He had a conversation with Sawyer and explained why they need to have the Joker in that room and they need to move Billy out. Sawyer told him that he paid a fortune to build that area of Arkham just for his brother. All the luxury and security that the boy deserves. He doesn't know why them having some Joker that they can't handle would make him love his brother any less. But Jim couldn't let it go. So he waited until he was relieved and he could go home. All was quiet when a call came in, but the signal was so weak Jim couldn't understand it. It sounded like he wasn't going to get a replacement. Something about not babysitting the Joker and to drop it. However, before anything could be settled, the patients began to run out of the building in a panic, and Jim ran in asking, "Where is he?" Frank tells him that he doesn't know what's going on. The patients have never acted like this before, and Jim shakes him, demanding to know where. Frank points in the direction of the cafeteria, yelling, "There." As Jim hurries in, the Joker looks up from his pie. "This is such a lovely surprise. Didn't know that you were mentally unwell." Jim grabs him, telling him that he's going back to his cell, and the Joker asks, "Can I finish my pie? I'm so quite hungry." Jim tells him no, and the Joker says, "It's almost like you missed me. Like you couldn't stop thinking about me, Jim." Jim scowls, pushing the Joker, telling him to get moving, and the Joker asks, "Oh, did I touch a nerve?" As the door to the cell is slammed shut, Jim can hear the laughter, and the Joker looks out from the food slot, telling him, "I'm really in your head, aren't I? Do you want to know Why? Jim walks up to the storage, pulling out a chair and sits in front of the cell, and the Joker asks, "Are you there? Do you want to know why?" Jim tells him to be quiet, but the Joker continues, "You've dedicated your life to stopping crime. You see how it works. Good, normal people pushed and pulled, twisted and broken by a cruel system. Folks like you, but desperate. You ask yourself, what would I do if my children were going hungry? Would I steal, rob, push dope? Would I kill? You wouldn't kill because you're a good man after all. But you understand it. You can see a piece of yourself in those people, and you want to use it to fight back. And when you look at me, you don't see that piece. You don't see anything that looks like you. At first you took comfort in that, but not anymore. You saw me and you thought, he's a freak. He's an anomaly. But you'll come back for another look because you're not sure anymore. Something is coming out of this city. Something bad. Because if you're watching people like me, then who's watching people like Falcone or Jim Jams? Jim jumps up, remembering a stakeout that they had, and he tells one of the janitors to watch the Joker as he runs to his patrol car. He yells over the radio that if anyone can hear him, but he hears static, and he says that he's held up at Arkham. Hopefully, the big meeting wasn't tonight, and when Jim comes back in, he sees the janitor has left to go to the bathroom. So Jim hurries to the cafeteria with his gun drawn, and the Joker finishes getting himself another slice of pie. "Do you want any?" Jim returned the Joker back to his cell and sat there with his gun out, lighting cigarette after cigarette until the morning came. But it paid off. Jeremiah said that Sawyer would fund another wing of the hospital for more security. And it seems like his chat did wonders. They're even moving the Joker into the room that Billy is currently in, and Billy will be moved. The only request is for him to leave. So Jim goes back to the city, and he hears a call requesting an additional unit. There was a shooting, and as he arrives, he learned that the meeting was last night. That while he was watching the Joker, his team went in and they were ambushed. Dent runs out asking him, "Where the hell were you, Jim?" Jim tells him, I didn't hear the radio. I was up at Arkham, and the Joker? He's done. We got him, Jim. Falcone's men were waiting for us, and we walked right in, and you were supposed to be there. Those officers were shot because of you. They were slaughtered because you couldn't let the Joker thing go. You weren't where we needed you, Jim. Jim goes back, telling Harvey that he was a good man, that he can't blame him for what he said. But he's wrong, and the Joker is right. He didn't understand it yet, but something awful is growing in Gotham, and if they want to stand any chance against it, he is exactly where he was needed last night. And there you have it, Joker issue 1 through 5. Now, this is a story that we covered briefly in our attempt at doing compilation episodes a long time ago, but as many of you know, I've been combining them and turning them into these long-form episodes properly. Joker 1 through 4 follows the storyline of Jim following and chasing the Joker, and we discover the new Bane character and stuff like that, while 5 is telling some more historical stuff. 6 and 7 and 8, they're going back to the original storyline, and we're going to be covering that very soon. So join the Comicstorian Army today. Press that like button, hit subscribe, and go on down to that bell, turn on notifications. Even though you think they might be on, YouTube has been turning off people's notifications for our channel. So if you want to keep up to date in your favorite comic books, make sure you hit that. And if you do want to consider supporting us just a little bit further and getting early access to a ton of videos. Right now we have Wolverine, Batman the Animated Series, Batman Detective Comics, Moon Knight, all up on our Patreon waiting to come out here on YouTube. Consider going to patreon.com/Comicstorian. Thank you guys so much for your continued support, and I'll see you next time right here.